This is the normal form that we have created using React state variables values and errors. And we also created the same using React hook form like this. With React hook form, we can create forms with less code, but what's more important is that it comes with a considerable performance gain. That's what we demonstrate in this lecture. Comparison of performance in these two ways of creating forms by counting the number of re-renders. Now let's see them in action. And also the concept of render count from this lecture will be used for explaining other features of the library going forward in this course, like isolated re-renders.
As always, you could find rest of the React hook form videos and recommended references along with GitHub repository of the demo project in video description and inside the first comment of this video.
So here we go. So first of all, I will add this folder hooks. Now let's add the new hook file, use render count. Now I will use this snippet RHF. So here we have the hook use render count. Now this is what I'm going to do. I will return a function like this. From that, we'll return this diff. So in effect, from this hook, we are returning a component like this. Now I'm going to create a new variable called count. And let's initialize it with 0. Now I'm going to increment this variable inside this return component here like this. So that whenever this component get re-rendered, the count also get incremented. Now we'll show them inside this div here like render count. And we just need to display them here count. Now like we have already noticed, React app using strict mode during development stage in place of one render, it rendered twice. So in order to get the exact render count, we have to divide this number by 2. Now let's make use of this hook inside this component where we have constructed the form using React hook form. Use render count. So here we have invoked the hook that we have just created. A quick update from future, meaning I'm recording this portion after publishing the entire course. I just want to talk about a possible warning that you might encounter while invoking this hook here. Those who have their React app configured with ESLint plugins or similar IDE extensions will get a warning like this. And it says that React hooks must be called in a React functional component. So this is what is happening. The particular development environment forces you to follow the rules of React hooks. You could see the complete list of rules inside this official documentation here. So according to the rule, we must invoke this method inside this functional component here. Now we don't have any error, but it will end up in giving us wrong render count. Whenever this component get re-rendered, this function will also get re-invoked and thereby the count will be reset to 0. That will compromise the correctness of render count. So here is the recommended solution. We must call this function outside the component. Now rename this hook function to getRenderCount instead of useRenderCount. Then this function will not be treated as a hook. Only functions starting with the prefix use will be treated as a hook. So no need to bother about the rules of hook anymore. Now it's better to change the folder name to something like utils. Now back to the form component. Let's remove this import statement and let's invoke the method getRenderCount. That's it. So that's all about the quick update for those who are facing the ESLint warning. Now you can continue with the rest of the lecture. Now as per our implementation here, it will return another component like this. In order to receive the same, I will assign this function invocation to a variable called renderCount. So this becomes another component returned from here. Now I will render the same inside this form component, renderCount. Now back to the app. So here we have the renderCount. Now before explaining further, let's do the same inside the typical form component here. For that, I will copy paste the same from this component. Now let's render the return component inside this form where we have constructed the form using React state variables, values and errors. Now currently inside this default app component, we are showing this food delivery form component. Instead of that, let's show this component typical form. So here we have the same form constructed using React state variables, values and errors. Now, whenever we change values inside these input controls here, you could see the render count changing. For each character we add into these components, the whole form gets re-rendered. But it won't happen with React hook forms. Let me show the component food delivery form where we have the React hook form constructed. See, the form is not getting re-rendered. Boom, that's it. So this is a major advantage of using React hook form library. Now let's discuss the exact reason for this performance gain. When it comes to typical React forms, the state of form controls is determined from React state objects like values or errors like we have shown. In order to modify any of such properties of the input control, first we have to change the corresponding state object, then the page will get reloaded, and that's how the new changes are reflected inside the input control. Now what's changed in React hook form? I have already given the hint in previous video. Since we have assigned a React reference object like this, the library can directly modify any of the properties or attributes of the input control without reloading the page. Now if you want to know more about React reference, you could go through this React official documentation manipulating the DOM with refs. Since form control values are not binded to React state variables, frequent re-render of component is avoided. And the onChange event handler provided by the React hook form updates the form data stored inside the library and does whatever necessary for implementing the rest of the features like the onBlur event does. Apart from these fundamentals that we have discussed here, there are few React hook form features aimed at enhancing the performance of forms. We'll discuss them at various stages of the app development.